आओ यहाँ बार बार खेलो झूमो कूदो यहाँ मस्ती में, बड़े छोटे साथ आओ ऐश करो नाच गाओ मस्ती में। आओ यहाँ बार बार खेलो झूमो कूदो यहाँ मस्ती में।
সুগন্ধ ৰং আৰু সোৱাদ খাতি
এভৰিডে জিভাত দিয়ে আচল জুতি।
এভৰিডে স্পাইচেছ 100% টেষ্ট। এভৰিডে স্পাইচেছ বেষ্ট।
মই ব্যৱহাৰ কৰোঁ আটাইতকৈ সবল আৰু সতেজ চিমেণ্ট, সূৰ্যা চিমেণ্ট। সূৰ্যা চিমেণ্ট, অটুট ঘৰ, অটুট অসম।
आओ यहाँ बार बार खेलो झूमो कूदो यहाँ मस्ती में, बड़े छोटे साथ आओ ऐश करो नाच गाओ मस्ती में। आओ यहाँ बार बार खेलो झूमो कूदो यहाँ मस्ती में।
Welcome back. You're watching Evening Prime, and now moving on to a big national story. With several trains vandalized and set on fire, public and police vehicles attacked, protests continue for the third consecutive day in many parts of the country against Centre's new scheme, Agnipath, for recruitment of youth in India's defense forces. Well, two coaches of Assam-bound Lohit Express was set ablaze by miscreants in Bihar's Mohiuddin Nagar this morning amid the ongoing row over Agnipath scheme. The train was en route to the Kamakya station in Guwahati from Jammu and Kashmir. It may be mentioned here that situation is grim in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, among other states of the country, with movement of trains disrupted in many districts.
लुधियाना से आया हूँ।
कौन सा गाड़ी था ये?
लोहित एक्सप्रेस।
गाड़ी नंबर कितना है?
15,652। 15,652।
कहाँ तक प्रस्थान करते हैं आप?
मैं वहाँ से सिलगुड़ी एनजीबी तक।
सिलीगुड़ी तक?
हाँ जी।
क्या परेशानी हुई यहाँ पे बताइए?
अभी हम यात्री हैं, इसमें जाने के लिए आए हुए, बीच रास्ते में दिक्कत हो रही है ना सरकार की तरफ से। चलो विद्यार्थियों का भी मार्ग सही है, जायज है। आर्मियों की जो ट्रेनिंग की बात कर रहे हैं, 2-2 साल के लिए ट्रेनिंग देनी पड़ती है, पढ़ाई करने के बाद, एजुकेशन पूरा होने के बाद भी इन लोगों को जो शास्ति देना पड़ता है आर्मियों के लिए, जो ये लोग मांग कर रहे हैं, उस चीज के लिए भी सही है। लेकिन इन लोगों को कहाँ गलती होगी? यात्रियों के लिए नहीं सोचा इन्होंने। यात्रियों के लिए अगर इन्होंने नहीं सोचा तो सरकार की तरफ से कुछ पहल की जाए। अंदर से आर्मी ये पुलिस वाले स्टेशन मार्शल बोल रहे चलो बाहर जाओ, 1 हफ्ते तक कोई इलाज नहीं है।
इंजन तोड़ दिया, इंजन के आगे आग लगा दिया,
ट्रेन में भी आग लगा?
ट्रेन में भी पूरा आग लगा।
कितना बोगी जली?
मना नहीं किया,
माना खुद स्वयं बुताए।
कितना बोगी जला था?
आपको मोबाइल से लेने मना कर रहा था।
हाँ, हमको भी वीडियो बनाने से मना कर दिया। यात्री सब उतर के अपना अपना किसी तरह व्यवस्था करके लोग जा रहे हैं।
आप लोग बहुत मना किए?
बहुत पूरा एकदम मना किए, हाथ गोड़ सब जोड़े,
नहीं माना।
नहीं माना,
आग लगाते चला गए।
क्या लग रहा है कितना विलम्ब होगा गाड़ी का खुलने में?
आगे देखिए।
आज यहाँ पे मॉर्निंग में सुबह से रेलवे स्टेशन पे फोर्स तैनात है और यहाँ पे कुछ उपद्रवी लड़के आए थे, परंतु उनको जो है बहुत ज्यादा डैमेज करने से रोक लिया गया है। उनके द्वारा पत्थरबाजी का प्रयास किया गया, परंतु उनके प्रयासों को विफल करके अभी हम लोगों ने थोड़ा एक जगह रेलवे स्टेशन पे थोड़ी बहुत टूट फूट हुई है, उसको भी बंद कर दिया गया है और लगातार इन उपद्रवी लड़कों को रोक करके इन पे कार्रवाई करी जा रही है।
बस स्टेशन पे भी कोई तो किया गया?
नहीं, अभी बस स्टेशन पे भी कोई सूचना नहीं।
अभी तक कोई गिरफ्तारी नहीं हुई है। अभी वीडियोग्राफी करवाई जा रही है, वीडियोग्राफी के बेसिस पर आइडेंटिफाई करवाया जाएगा। अभी सबको वो किया जा रहा है, तितर किया जा रहा है। अगर कोई इकट्ठा हो रहा है तो समझा बुझा करके सबको भेजा जा रहा है। नहीं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं हुआ ना। तो 200 लड़के लाठी लेकर के आए हैं और जो भी लड़के इकट्ठे थे उनसे लगातार संवाद स्थापित करके हमारा प्रयास है उनसे जानने के लिए कि वो क्यों इकट्ठा है, और उनको बताया जा रहा है। कुछ लड़के ज्ञापन देने के लिए जो इकट्ठा है उनसे ज्ञापन लेकर के उनको भेजा जा रहा है। बाकी सब जगह फोर्स इसलिए पहले से तैनात है, और इधर रेलवे स्टेशन में भी आउटर पे कुछ लोग इकट्ठे हुए थे जिसकी जानकारी मिली है कि प्लेटफॉर्म पे हमारी फोर्स तैनात थी, तो इधर आउटर में आकर के उनसे वार्ता करके संवाद करके उनको ही भेजा जा रहा है।
Notably, the Agnipath scheme has received a huge backlash from multiple quarters, stating that it will adversely impact the functioning of India's armed forces. Even the House of Deputy Chief Minister Renu Devi, who is currently in Patna, was attacked in Betia in Bihar's West Champaran district amid protests against the new recruitment scheme that has set off a firestorm. A BJP office was also attacked in Lakhisarai district. In the Bengusarai district, the agitated youth blocked the Rajabari Kumti road. And meanwhile, the movement of trains were affected as agitating protesters chose to voice their concerns by sitting on the railway tracks in Sahebpur Kamal and Lakhisarai railway stations. Protests against the Agnipath scheme were also witnessed in Uttar Pradesh's Balia, where a huge crowd gathered at Balia railway station in protest against the Agnipath scheme, raising slogans Bharat Mata Ki Jai and Agnipath Wapas Lo. Youths protesting against Agnipath recruitment scheme set an empty train on fire and vandalized few other trains in Balia, Varanasi, Memu and Balia Sheganj trains. What's mentioning here, the center is of the view that the Agnipath scheme is a major overhaul of a decade-old selection process to enhance a youthful profile of the three services. Well, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has given his first reactions on the ongoing row over centre's Agnipath scheme. The Defense Minister stated that young people did not get the opportunity to get inducted into armed forces due to no recruitment process in the last 2 years. The Defense Minister further reiterated the government's decision to increase the upper age limit from 21 years to 23 years.
केंद्र सरकार द्वारा घोषित की गई अग्निपथ योजना भारत के नौजवानों को देश की रक्षा व्यवस्था से जुड़ने और देश की सेवा करने का एक सुनहरा अवसर देता है। अग्निवीर हूं, यह उनकी ताजिंदगी के लिए पहचान बन जाती है। पिछले 2 साल से सेना में भर्ती की प्रक्रिया न होने के कारण बहुत से नौजवानों को सेना में भर्ती होने का अवसर नहीं मिला। यह सच्चाई है। इसलिए युवाओं के भविष्य को ध्यान में रखते हुए और उनके प्रति संवेदनशीलता दिखाते हुए प्रधानमंत्री जी के अनुमोदन पर सरकार ने फैसला किया है कि अग्निवीरों की भर्ती की आयु सीमा को इस बार बढ़ाकर 21 से 23 वर्ष कर दिया जाए। यह वन टाइम रिलैक्सेशन दिया गया है। इससे बहुत सारे नौजवानों को अग्निवीर बनने की पात्रता स्वतः मिल जाएगी। और मैं यह भी कहना चाहता हूं कि भर्ती प्रक्रिया कुछ ही दिनों में प्रारंभ होने जा रही है। मैं सभी नौजवानों से अपील करता हूं कि सेना में भर्ती होने की वह तैयारी करें और इसका पूरा लाभ उठाएं।
Meanwhile, we also have the first reactions coming in from Indian Army Chief General Manoj Pandey on the Agnipath scheme launched by the Union government. Well, the Army Chief's statements have assumed significance amidst the ongoing backlash over centre's new initiative. Well, talking to the media, General Manoj Pandey has said that youths are still not aware about the Agnipath scheme. General Pandey further added that once the youth come to know about the scheme, they will too extend their support.
Let me start by saying that our units and formations are ready to embrace this change. And not only are they prepared, but they are extremely keen to adopt the Agnipath scheme. Our effort will be to spread awareness about the scheme up to the last soldier in the earliest possible time frame. As far as the youth is concerned, I feel they haven't fully understood the contents and the implications of the scheme, and that is why there are some apprehensions in their mind. But once they have fully understood the contents of the scheme, I'm sure that they will realize it is not only for their good, but also for the good of the nation and good of the Indian Army. In the last couple of days, a number of initiatives have been announced by the state governments, different ministries, certain corporate houses, and other agencies. I think all this will only allay their fears and further help them gain confidence in the scheme.
Well, amid the ongoing protests throughout the country, the centre has decided to increase the upper age limit for recruitment. Earlier, during the launch of the mega scheme on Thursday, the centre had said that aspirants between age group of 17 to 21 years would be inducted for a 4-year tenure in the armed forces. However, as per the latest order issued by the Defense Ministry, the age limit for recruitment has been now raised to 23 for the 2022 batch only.
It's important for the youth to really understand the scheme first. A lot of this is happening because of lack of understanding and because of some views being expressed on the media where they are being misled into understanding it as lack of permanent employment and all the associated concerns that are being expressed. Firstly, there is no place for violence and protests of this nature for the youth who are.
And back to region now. In a proud moment for Sikkim, Anju Tamang, a footballer from the state, has been named Indian Player of the Year by the Football Players Association of India, or FPAI. Anju Tamang, who plays as a forward for Indian Women's League club Setu FC and the Indian Women's National Team, has made Sikkim as well as the entire nation proud after her achievement. It may be mentioned here that FPAI Indian Player of the Year is an annual award given to an Indian player who is suggested to have been the best of the season in Indian football. The award has been presented since the 2009-10 season, and the winner is chosen by a vote amongst the members of the Football Players Association of India. The first recipient of the award was captain of India men's national football team, Sunil Chhetri. Since 2022, the woman counterpart of the award is also presented, with Anju Tamang being the first recipient. On to international focus now. United Nations Human Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet, addressing the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, said the death toll is likely thousands higher in Mariupol, claiming it to be the deadliest place in Ukraine. Well, the UN Human Rights Chief said at least 1,348 people have been killed in Mariupol since the beginning of the war with Russia. She also said that 9 out of the 10 residential buildings and 6 out of 10 private houses have been damaged or destroyed. She added the deaths were caused by airstrikes, tank and artillery shelling, and small arms and light weapons during street fighting. Well, Bachelet also raised concern over the filtration process in the city, where arbitrary determinations, intimidation, and humiliation, which may amount to ill treatment, have been reported.
Between February and the end of April, Mariupol was likely the deadliest place in Ukraine. The intensity and extent of hostilities, destruction, and death and injury strongly suggest that serious violations of international humanitarian law and gross violations of international human rights law have occurred. To date, OHCHR has verified 1,348 individual civilian deaths directly in hostilities in Mariupol, including 70 children. These deaths were caused by airstrikes, tank and artillery shelling, and small arms and light weapons during street fighting. The actual death toll of hostilities on civilians is likely thousands higher. We assess that up to 90% of residential buildings have been damaged or destroyed, as well as up to 60% of private houses. An estimated 350,000 people were forced to leave the city. The humanitarian situation is devastating, with civilians continuing to bear the brunt of this conflict.
Russia seized full control of Mariupol last month when more than 2,400 Ukrainian fighters surrendered at the Bezekta Azovstal steel works. Moscow's capture of Mariupol helped it secure full control of the Sea of Azov coast and create a land bridge linking mainland Russia to Crimea, and which is annexed from Ukraine in 2014. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has described Mariupol as completely destroyed, but Moscow has pledged to rebuild it. And in some other stories now. Prideus Entertainment's private limited CMD Riniki Bhuya Sharma today inaugurated an IVF facility of Seeds of Innocence group at Guwahati's Bhangaghar. The center was inaugurated at the Ashi complex near Rajiv Bhavan, Guwahati. For couples looking to conceive, the center would provide services at affordable prices. Also present at the inauguration program were CMD of Seeds of Innocence, Dr. Rajat Arora, Dr. Gauri Agarwal, and Uttar Pradesh MP Subrat Pathak.
It's a very high standard laboratory. It is not about IVF. It is related to a lot of new technologies also. Aru yate jitu korise je okol IVF korile jitu genetic disorders blak manhor hoy bhobishot jetia fusions kini hoy he genetic disorders kini normally বহুত কমপ্লিকেশ্যন থাকে কিন্তু সেই প্ৰচেছ অফ কমপ্লিকেশ্যনটো তাহাঁতি কেনেকৈ অভাৰকাম কৰি এটা নতুন পদ্ধতি এটা উলিয়াইছে যেটা এটা ফিউচাৰ হেল্ডি বেবী এটা জন্ম হ'ব পাৰে যিটো ইয়াতে বৰ্তমান অসমত ক'তো নাই এইটো এটা ফাৰ্ষ্ট ইউনিট ইয়াতে আৰম্ভ হৈছে আৰু তেখেতসকলক উইশ কৰিছোঁ যাতে ভৱিষ্যত এনেকৈ খুব সুন্দৰকৈ কাম কৰি গৈ থাকে আৰু গোটেই ভাৰতবৰ্ষত তেওঁলোকৰ অৰ্গেনাইজেশ্যন আছে আৰু অসমত এবাৰ প্ৰথমটো তেওঁলোকে আহি কৰিছে চ' গোটেই এই চিডছ অফ ইন'চেন্স তেখেতসকলৰ যিটো নাম দিছে শুভকামনা থাকিল
And on to our sports news now. Well, water soccer governing body FIFA has finally announced the 16 North American cities that will host matches for the 2026 World Cup, with 11 venues chosen in the United States, 3 in Mexico, and 2 in Canada. Well, the 2026 World Cup will be the first tournament hosted by 3 nations and also the first that will expand to 48 teams in the competition. Well, FIFA President Gianni Infantino said that he expects soccer to be the biggest sport in North America in time for the 2026 World Cup. World Soccer governing body FIFA announced the 16 cities, 11 in the United States, 3 in Mexico, and 2 in Canada, that were successful from the 22 bids put forward in a special event at the Rockefeller Center in New York. However, there was no indication where the opening game or the final would be played. Well, the United States, which staged the tournament in 1994, will host games in Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Kansas City, Dallas, Atlanta, Houston, Boston, Philadelphia, Miami, and New York or New Jersey. Mexico, who hosted the World Cup in 1970 and 1986, will stage matches in Mexico City, Guadalajara and Monterrey, while Canada, which is staging the men's event for the first time, will do so in the Vancouver and Toronto. Well, the 2026 tournament is expected to smash World Cup attendance records, which peaked at 3.6 million when it was held in the United States in 1994. It will also be the first time 48 teams will feature in the tournament, an increase from the 32 that will contest this year's event in Qatar.
As much as we want the early games, there's one game we want. We want the last game. We want the last game. We want that World Cup trophy hoisted right here up the road in MetLife Stadium. Look at the backdrop. How could you not play the finals here? Look at New York City, the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island. It screams diversity. It screams our immigrant roots. And it screams soccer. Welcome, world.
Well, news and updates continue on Northeast Live, so stay tuned for more news. Thanks for watching.
Northeast Live, the most viewed news channel in the region. On YouTube, unmatched coverage.